Are you a nonprofit or business in need of more funding? Overwhelmed by the surge of potential funders and not seeing the results you would like? I am Michelle Rollins, veteran, military spouse, a grant writer expert and fundraising professional. I have transformed ideas to real-life transformations at many nonprofits and businesses. Let me transform your ideas to a whole new level. Reach out today for a consultation. Find me at Michelle Rollins LinkedIn and Facebook, and at Michelle Rollins Grants on YouTube. Welcome to Grant Writing with Michelle. I'm your host, Michelle Rollins, and you are on ESPN Richmond 106.1 FM, powered by MikeKingBiz Media. Thank you for tuning in today. I have a great guest. She's a returning guest. She's also a powerhouse in the real estate community. Kristin Murphy, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
Yes, you're always coming in smiling, ready to talk about real estate biz talk.
Absolutely.
So tell me why you're here today.
So we've had a couple different sessions lately. We've talked about a few things. And so I just kind of wanted to share with everyone where I started, why I chose what I chose, kind of the path that took me to real estate and growing my own team, and how we are expanding that and helping others now with that avenue.
And I noticed the other day, and you guys got to tune in, she is on Facebook. I want to say TikTok. I don't do TikTok. I know you're on TikTok. I've seen your videos.
I try.
And she just did a photo shoot with Joanne Hartsick.
I did.
Yes. She was a first responder.
Yeah, she was with our police department for many, many years.
Yeah, she's a great photography.
She is.
She nailed it. She did a great job on your photos. And so if you didn't know, Kristin Murphy is the co-founder of Meraki Realty. And I've known Kristin quite some time. And she was with a different realty company. And she had a different look and vibe. And now you have like a completely different vibe. But you bring a lot to the community. You bring a lot of background helping others. So why did you switch careers? And I say this because I've done the same thing. I wasn't a nurse, but you switched from being a nurse to real estate. That's really drastic. What did the hubby think?
It is. Well, so he actually loved it. So long story short, I was in nursing for 9 years. And by the time we were pregnant with our third, he's a police officer and he was working night shift. And, the kids were in daycare and I'm commuting 45 minutes away from where we live. By the time I get off of work, I never get off at in time as a nurse. And getting home, the kids it's 6:30. It's food, bed, dad's already at work. So for our family, we just knew we needed a change. And he jokingly said one day, why not real estate? You can make your own
And that's
schedule.
when it happens. That's when it really happens. When the hubby says something and you're like, I challenge you on this.
And at first I'm like, no, I'll never make it. All I know is medical.
Yes.
I wanted that my whole life. That's what I went to school for. I don't know a single thing about running a business. But that idea just grew as I was on maternity leave. And so I said, well, what's the worst that can happen? Let me dive in and see. And if it doesn't work, then I have a career, a fallback. You can always go back to a doctor's office or hospital. So it was kind of an authentic way. It just kind of fell into it and realized that I loved it. And it's still helping people, but in a different way. So I joined a team, a really we've talked about this before, really well-known team in the area. I was there for almost 4 years just to really just get my feet wet.
And you did more than that, though. You were the powerhouse. I mean, in my opinion, just because I remember, I think we were friends on Facebook prior to that, because I remember seeing pictures of your scrubs.
I think so too, probably.
And saying something about daycare or washer and dryer or something. I don't remember, mom stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Just the long hours, daycare, and then all of a sudden you switch gears. And then all of a sudden, Kristin Murphy is now selling my house.
Yeah. It's like we're just police spouses.
Yes.
And then that's
what you did. You found your niche, not only in real estate, but in the first responder community. You really were able to grab hold of that. And not to say I come from the first responder and the military community, and there are so many realtors. I mean, and it's a lot. It's like the whole community.
You throw a rock, you're going to hit one.
Yes. And there's, but I feel like there's enough work for everybody.
Absolutely.
But you really brought it for being a newbie and switching careers. Because I use the word newbie coming from the military world. And, I switched careers too. And it's kind of like, oh no, this is just what I was made for. I got this.
Right.
And you did that. And you did a very, and then you jumped in and you supported nonprofits, more than one. You've not only given time, but you've given a lot of money. I mean, I believe when you came on the show over the summer, you mentioned you gave $75,000. That's a lot.
It is a lot of money.
That's a great, that stands out.
Yes.
Because I have a lot of realtor friends, and you say that you've donated that much in the amount of time you've been a realtor, that's just so impressive.
Well, thank you. And that was, that was one of the other reasons. It started out switching to real estate because I needed something that worked for my family. But then I quickly realized, with nursing, there's a ceiling, there's a cap. You can only go so far, especially when you're, raising young kids. And you have a first responder partner who is always working because they don't get to make their schedules.
Right.
We're kind of at the mercy. And we're raising a family around that. So I quickly realized that I could do so much more. And my heart has always been to serve and to give. This is how we relate to each other and why we became friends in the first place. And real estate allows me to do that. So I always say it's not just buying and selling houses for me. It really is so much bigger. And I don't, maybe I should brag a little bit about what I've done because I am proud of it.
Impressive. In a short amount of time. It's like, wow, you did that. You didn't only make your mark and win some awards, because I remember seeing you win some awards while you were with that realty company, but you also, you treated each client, and a lot of clients did come from the first responder, but you treated them like family.
Yes.
And while being a mom, and you may not, like when you sold our house, you didn't make it to everything, but that's okay, because when you think about the distance, you made a call, you still did this right, and you hooked us up with the right people that showed up, and even up to the clock of going from one house to the other, there's glitches, especially if you're military and you're doing a VA loan, and you were there in comparison to our experience a long time ago. You went above and beyond. And I say this because, military spouses, many are realtors. They try to be that military relocation specialist, which you are as well. But you really have to understand what you're going through.
Absolutely.
And you have that empathy. You have that touch of understanding. So you have families coming from all over, transitioning, moving here, moving out to a different state, and moving all over. So, you have to be flexible, and you don't work just in your home office like me, but you travel to X, Y, and Z, wherever you got to go. And you're also renovating.
Yes, I'm flipping houses.
I was going to say flipping. I didn't know if that was the
renovating, flipping.
That's new.
It is new. Yeah. So I have 2 houses, but again, it's to set up, it's to use real estate as an avenue to set up a legacy for my family. I set my family up for success. First responders, in my eyes, you will never change my opinion, don't make enough money for what they do and what they go through. And they put everyone else first around themselves. And oftentimes the first responder themselves and the families suffer. Whether that's financially or mental health. And, so flipping houses was one of those, just another avenue that I'm passionate about it and I love it, but also the profit is larger. I can make money for my family and still have a margin to give back in another way. I'm blessed that way. And so that was the biggest thing, was just growing that to give back. So
you went from working for another realtor company for 4 years. You weren't flipping houses, from my knowledge at that time.
I did one, but it was
not where you are now. Because I've seen the houses you're flipping, and they're pretty big.
Yeah.
But you're tackling them pretty well. I see your challenges, and people are sending sweet treats your way.
They are.
They're understanding the ins and outs of it. And that's great, because that means you have a great team behind you.
Oh, absolutely.
And you like having your team, because some of your team members I know, and they're amazing. And I'm not trying to be biased. These are folks that I floated in my circles because of Kristin, but in a way they did. And then it benefited me in other ways, from other nonprofits that support, or previous clients, as well as my son that goes to the United States Military Academy. One of Atlantic Bay lenders.
Yes.
And Emily, her father is a graduate of West Point, and he was an amazing asset and mentor to Hunter. I got to sit down and really see, at the beginning stages.
Right.
And it's great when you have people in your circles that really take an interest. And
Absolutely.
what was funny was the day we go to sign our paper, I think you had something that day, but you sent us a gift and it was amazing. But we went from all the way to Petersburg or that area, all the way to Short Pump in a short amount of time.
Yes.
And then all the way out where I live now. And it's a lot of traveling.
A lot.
And I remember Emily telling me, or she called me while I was still sitting in the parking lot after we signed everything, get ready to head to our new home, and said, okay, I want to be a part of the organization at Fort Gregg Adams. And that's all it took. And that was really amazing just to know that you made an impact, and that's what you're doing. The same thing. You were able to share something that you saw that I was doing. And then also I feel like you are your own motto is give back.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you follow that outside of where you were for 4 years.
Yes.
You believe in it. It's kind of what you eat and breathe every day. And then you're doing that with what you represent now. And one of your big give backs is giving back to first responders, nurses. Is it teachers too?
Yeah, so we just added a teacher incentive.
Okay.
So we pay the first mortgage payment for all of our first responders. So that's military, active veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and nurses. We added during COVID. So we pay your first mortgage payment. And then we just recently, it was like, we need to do something for teachers too.
No, that's great.
They're also a backbone
They
in our
are.
community, especially these days. So now we're donating money to their classroom.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's great.
That's brand new.
No, that's great, especially post-COVID. As a previous educator, I think
absolutely.
that's needed. So
Well-
look at you going that extra mile even further.
Yeah.
So again, you're like the walking billboard of give back. And then also you've given to some of the nonprofits connected to our first responders. You've actually donated quite a hefty penny to those. I mean, we go back to that 75,000. Those are included in that estimate. Well, not estimate, in that amount of money. And, you're there too, you're present, not just to your husband, that's the first responder spouse, but all to the others saying, thank you. What can I do? Can I volunteer? What can I do? And the same thing with our military. Your husband is a veteran, so you've dived into Fort Gregg and you've jumped in. And then, I don't want to go back to who you were with, and I'm not going to mention their name, but you have done a drive, or you've done a drive the last couple of years. That was amazing. I go out all the time to go get the pie and then watch what you're collecting. I'm like, oh my gosh. And in that cool van
loads of toys to give back. Because, I feel like you can, if you look hard enough, you can find something personal to relate to in every avenue of your life. I'm a mother. So why would I want kids to go without on Christmas? Right.
And it goes back to you. And it actually goes back to your spouse because, or not necessarily to your family, but his colleagues. Because Chesterfield County Police just came on as a collaborating partner with the Chamber of Commerce. And it goes back to our National Guard and reservists as well, not just the active duty.
Which I love it.
Which is amazing because then our own first responders can also reap those needs if they need it.
Right.
And as you said, they don't make enough.
Right.
There's not enough. We see the needs sometimes. We're like, oh my goodness, how can I help? Let me help.
Yeah. I use this analogy oftentimes, and it sounds really just, I don't know, exaggerated, but it's so true. And I said, I'm out here, I'm just buying and selling houses.
That's all you're doing.
My husband went
It's nothing.
Right. No big deal. But a couple years ago, Chris goes to work, and it was actually a few days before Christmas. And I get a phone call, and there's a bullet hole in his windshield. I'm going to sell a house, and he's getting shot at.
Yes.
So, I know that sounds just astronomical to say it like that, but
it's the truth.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, my husband was dragged by a drunk driver right after we had right after kids were born. So I remember these things, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
big,
this is a lot.
Scary, and they're literally putting their lives on the line. Why wouldn't we do what we can to give back? Yeah. So, and that was one of the other big reasons why I wanted to start my own team. Being on a big team is great and all.
Yes.
But there are certain parameters that you have to stay in. I'm giving away a part of my commission to another company, growing another company, which is great because they also give back. But I wanted to just own a little more of my time and my paycheck because that just allows me to do even more.
Yes, it allows you to be more present with your family and also more present in the community and be more intentional with that time. And as a business owner, I totally get that. And also as a first responder spouse, I understand that. And you've got seen where we started years ago to now is amazing because, you know, we've got to know each other. I know, right? And then just, I think sometimes we get forgotten as the I would say military spouses, because I'm also sitting in that seat, but first responder spouses. It's the same.
Spouses.
We do.
Absolutely.
Because they go through a lot and it's hard to understand because we're sitting in a different spot, but we're also trying to help because that allows your husband to be more present. That allows my husband to be, we try to be women bosses. That's what I say.
That's right. Mom boss.
Mom boss.
Absolutely.
You know, and when they've given to our country, as your husband has and mine, we want to give back as well. And so that heart keeps giving it. And you're in what you've done in just a short amount of time. Well, I don't want to say short. You were a nurse and alone. That's giving back.
Just a different avenue.
Yes. Right. Yes. And I think a little bit of that heart is still with you as a realtor. And I think people see it, especially when you give back that check to the nurses. I know that they have to feel that.
Oh, yes.
I mean, and you're always doing that. And you haven't stopped even transitioning into being the co-founder of Meraki.
That's what I said. When I started my own company, it was like, no, I have these core values and these morals and these incentives. You know, those aren't going away. I didn't become a business owner just so I could, you know, collect.
I was going to say just to make some more money. Yes, there's a reason, a purpose behind it. And you're showing that giving back is really an eat and breathe. That is your everyday, the reason that you're doing it. That's your purpose.
And I want to inspire others. You know, you and I talk about this all the time. It's if we can get in the room with specific people, they, you know, it's almost impossible to not get excited and passionate when everyone around you is passionate about something. So we surround ourselves with those that have the same mindset.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And, you know, not only does it feel good, but it's like, come on, our arms are wide open. Like, come with us.
I was going to say, you do have a team that's still with you after all these years. A lot of them that comes from your contractors that come in to help with like the pest control. You know, Jeff's been a part. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been introduced to Jeff. Would have been introduced to Mark. And then it went back where I would have found that amazing creative idea of we need him here at Fort Gregg. And that's how that circle works. That's how those connect.
And they're all passionate about the same things that we are. So it's the networking aspect. And again, just finding people that have a smidgen of power and presence in our communities. And then let's band together. And let's do something great. So it's just a really good feeling. And to me, it means so much that we can just continue to build on that.
Yes. So if you could share with the audience what else they want to, like what else they want to learn about you, what would it be? It could be a fun fact, or it could be something else that you want to share, or maybe something exciting that's happened in your venture right now. What would it be?
Okay. Well, fun fact. Everyone makes fun of me for this. Everyone's scared of something, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, it's talking on the radio. It's doing this. You know, I'm scared to death of chickens. I will tackle many, many things.
I wouldn't believe
but you put a chicken in front of me and I'm out.
Now, you're always at your family's farm or
those
land.
Chickens are locked up because they know I would never go there. So fun icebreaker fact. And really just, I don't know, a new venture. Again, I would say it's just discovering new paths, whether that's coaching, mentoring, flipping houses, the people you meet, no matter which path you choose, it's always a blessing and something to be grateful for because you learn something. So I just want to kind of continue.
No, that's great.
Dipping my toes everywhere and see what comes of it.
When you had your new upcoming realtor picture this week and you posted it, what were you thinking? What came to mind? What was that favorite word, a favorite thing maybe you and your business partner were thinking? Because that's a real big statement, I felt like, comparing to the Kristin that I've known all these years.
It is. Well, so it's funny because when we went into it, both my partner and I we're not camera people. So this is like out of my element to
you did great.
Do pictures in camera. And, you know, I get really self-conscious. I sweated that whole morning. I was like, I do not want to take these photos. But then, you know, when the photographer is taking them and she's like, strike this pose and this, you know, and I feel kind of funky.
Yeah, you know, but you look like you're a woman taking charge.
And that's what she said. And she kept saying, stop and think about what you want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
You have such a drive.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that come through in these photos. And
it showed.
I'm like, okay, well, I'll do what I can. And then she sent me a couple of those examples, and I was like, oh,
yeah, it was different. It showed that you're taking charge of everything that you're being intentional with, from giving back to taking time for your clients, taking your work and life balance back, and making sure that you also are taking care of your team. All of those really showed in that picture. I didn't even get a chance to really talk to you about the picture, but I saw it. I thought it stuck out because I've known you and I know what pictures you've had up, and
they're really kind of timid. And so
this is your new lane. This is your new path. And even though there's still some of you in that 4 years, you've brought some of that with you. This is now the new co-founder of Meraki Realty.
Yeah.
So
do big things.
Yes. So this is final thoughts. I always say, think of one word that comes to mind when people think of you. What do you think it is?
Oh, goodness. You put me on the spot.
I do. I do that to everybody, even the police officers on the show.
I hope people think of me as inspiring.
Yeah, because
I wanna put good out into the world.
Yes,
so
and
I'm going to go with that.
That's a good one. Well, folks, here you have it today. I have my great real estate biz talk here with Kristin Murphy. She will be back. So please tune in to this show and check me back. Why am I having this moment? Oh my gosh, only in the studio. Stay tuned for next week with Michelle Rollins and Grant Writing with Michelle.